Hi
Hi
Latha, how are you?
Sandesh, how are you?
Good. Sorry, I've been having a bit of some technical issues with my phone. I ran out of charge on the other one, and I've been trying to use a cable or something to kind of keep this going. I
Oh
thought you
my
could do an
God.
Instagram live on desktop, but obviously that's not the case. So,
Yes, you can't do it.
and pardon the halo also. Yeah,
Yes, I
I,
can see that halo. But that's great. How are you keeping? All well? I mean, staying at home safe?
yeah. So far, so good. I guess it's a good day to be here. I guess it's raining
Yeah,
and
yeah.
well, otherwise I'm doing okay.
Okay, okay, super. So, Sandesh, I've been wanting to chat with you for a while because of course, I go to all the joints that you've opened up, and I think most of Chennai does. We all know you, and you're like part of our homes in every aspect. I mean, if we don't go out to eat, we're of course ordering, Swiggying in from OMBC and so on. So it's like
Right.
become, par for the course. But when you got into the food business, when you decided that I want to set up, something of my own in Chennai, that time there weren't so many options as such, right, in the city. And also in terms of people in Chennai eating out, was it a big trend at that point?
Well, look, I still don't think eating out's a trend per se. I think people's needs have changed. So I think we're trying
Oh.
to kind of cater to that need in some way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
Uh, I started in 2006. So it's been
Yeah.
2005 December, actually. But yeah, I mean, when I started off as a small home baker, right? I mean, it wasn't really anything significant at that point.
Hmm.
I was baking some dessert and trying to sell it out of my parents' watchman's cabin at that point. So it wasn't really that much of a business. But yeah, back then I guess there were not too many people doing home-based baking or whatever at that point. So I guess in that sense it was new.
Hmm.
And obviously um, a male home baker was was a bit taboo, I guess, back then too. So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I think the city has obviously come a long way from then. People are looking. I mean, people are definitely eating out. I think more often out of necessity right now. People's
Hmm.
lifestyles, I guess, have gotten busier, and people's interests, and they're obviously wanting to try new things. Their travels, their nostalgia, I guess, brings them back in. I guess in some way, shape or form to not just our restaurants, but I guess in most of the eating out culture is that. I think that's what's actually changed. I think people are traveling more, people are exploring more, and so they want to try and see if they can, I guess, in some sense, try that in their own backyards, I guess, to some degree. And that's kind of, I think, shifting a little bit of that dining out culture, I guess, in some sense.
Right, because Chennai, like an idli dosa joint, there is a dime a dozen. Wherever, like
Right.
every half a kilometer, you'll find a Sangeeta or something. Saravana
Right.
Bhavan, Ratna Cafe, so on and so forth. But like the chains that you've started, I mean, the restaurants that you've opened up, it's world cuisine. It's not Indian food, except for sea
Right.
salt, which is of course Mallu food, but
Sea salt
or
is not on the food.
seafood, seafood,
Seafood
seafood,
is South
yeah,
Indian food.
seafood, South Indian seafood. Let me correct that. But was it a conscious decision of yours that you wanted to make sure that Chennai gets to taste different types of cuisine and it's not just limited to Indian food or Tamil food as such?
So look, I think at first started off with things that I was comfortable cooking, right? And
Hmm.
I'm still not very comfortable cooking South Indian food. I mean, I can manage a little bit with regards to the food that I grew up eating, which is predominantly Telugu food. I can
Hmm.
do halfway decently. Um, and then it became fairly mission driven. I think we said we wanted to try and introduce new concepts to Chennai that Chennai was lacking, I guess, in some sense back then.
Hmm.
And that was predominantly why I decided to do what I was doing. The idea was to try and create new experiences for people from Chennai. Because, I mean, at some point you get tired of listening to people saying, oh, Bombay has these many options, Bangalore has these many options.
Yeah.
And either you can listen to people whine about this or do something about it. So I guess
Hmm.
in some sense we decided to start playing that card more
Hmm.
prominently than let's say, let's look at the most profitable business that we can open and then open more of those. Um, and that predominantly what led to us opening new concepts in general. It's and in more cases than not, and most often than not, we've always, I think, prided ourselves in trying to create a new experience that other people weren't thinking of at that point. So if I had friends in the community that were already doing something, we avoid it 9 out of 10 times, unless we feel that we can do something that's better than what's available. I ideally don't like to open another restaurant because another friend runs a similar format and I see them being successful. It was always, I mean, and if you look at any of my menus, it's not something that you'd find in any other restaurant, even in a similar space. That's something that I'm constantly, obviously, pushing myself to innovate and stay, different. Not for the sake of being different, but I believe that the market's not large enough to absorb multiples of the same format. And the last thing I want to do is, already drive a wedge in an already difficult environment for people that are trying to survive, I guess, in some way, shape, or
Yeah.
form.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why we don't do the idli dosa joints.
Yeah. No, but I think, but you've tried, like for instance, you have a batter, which is all ice creams, right? You have a hutong, which is Asian. You've got, Old Madras Baking Company, where your bread, I mean, I think is one of the most sought after today, because you made freshly baked bread without preservatives, and you were trying to give something new, and I think also the different types of bread that you introduced, whether it was your sourdough and so on and so forth, right? Were you apprehensive at all at any point saying, this may not work, it might fail?
Look, I mean, we're shutting Hutong down at the end of the month.
Oh
I
God.
think a lot of it has
Okay.
to do with the pandemic, right?
Yeah,
And
that
if you
has
look
to
at
do
it
with
that way,
yeah.
Chinese food is considered to be fairly accepted. But even in that, with Hutong, we decided to play a completely different card. We said we'll do Sichuan food. We'll do authentic Sichuan cuisine. It wasn't regular Chinese food. People walking in expecting an Indian Chinese restaurant were grossly disappointed.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I guess in some sense, people found that we were doing something that was uniquely us. With batter, again, the ice creams that we make are low fat, lower in sugar, but that's not the reason why people come to it. People come to it because they like it. It's delicious, regardless of what we're trying to do differently. And the flavors are not something, again, that you'll find, in other places either.
Yeah.
So given all of that, uh, apprehension is something that, look, if I wholeheartedly believe in something, then I'm going to go ahead and do it, regardless of what the outcome is. And I
Okay.
guess it takes me a while to kind of get committed to an idea, and then after that, it's about execution. Right? We failed more often than not, but that's okay. We learn from our mistakes and we move on.
Yeah. But was there any pet project of yours, like which,
Maya,
failed to take off? Oh,
that's my the project that's closest to my heart that didn't even like take off the ground. But look, that's what Avartan's doing now. I mean, maybe we were way ahead of the curve in
right,
2011, 12. I think that's when Maya opened.
right.
We were trying to do, I wouldn't say fine dining. We were trying to do our own take on Andhra food. I guess Avartan's doing that with South Indian food in some way, shape, or form. But that was the project that was closest to my heart, from the way that restaurant was designed to the kind of equipment we were using. We were using Italian equipment to cook Indian food. I mean, that was like virtually unheard of back then. And not because it seemed like the trend, it just seemed like a great way to get consistent results with the kind of food that we were trying to do back then. So, given that, I mean, that definitely is my favorite restaurant that didn't take off. It was closest to my heart. I don't know if I'll ever reopen a Maya ever again, but that will always remain as one of those restaurants that I wish worked. But we've obviously learned from that experience, and I guess we'll do something with it in the future.
No, but Sandesh, don't you think it might work today? It might
It
work better
may not.
even
I
today.
don't know, but I don't
Okay.
know if I'm ready for another disappointment just yet with regards to Maya.
Okay. Which do you think, speaking specifically about OMBC, Old Madras Baking Company, do you think that it's, I think, personally, I think it's really created, it's one of the best brands of yours. Of course, Sandy's you go and eat, but I think OMBC it's like everybody goes there. You know what I'm saying? Like Sandy's, not everybody might go there. The crowd may be a little different. But what are your plans as far as OMBC goes? Do you want to, franchise it out to other cities, or do you enjoy being in Chennai and sticking to Chennai?
So let me drop some truth bombs right now. One is, by the way,
Okay.
OMBC is not just in Chennai. OMBC already has branches in Hyderabad. I
Oh,
stepped
okay,
away
okay.
from OMBC last year when I
Okay.
took over operations at French Loaf. So, which is why you
Okay.
see the entire change of French Loaves and things like that. So that's what I'm doing
Yeah.
actively right now.
Okay.
So my current role is actually not with ONDC; it's with Oriental Cuisine. So I'm running French Loaf and helping in that whole transition process right now.
Okay.
As an owner and stakeholder of that business. So I own a part of OCPL right
French.
now. So French Loaf
Okay.
so it's basically French Loaf and Wines Kitchen that I took over. Took over 143 outlets in September
Okay.
of last year. So it's going
Okay.
to be a year since that transition took place. So obviously the focus is on trying to grow and scale French Loaf at
Hmm.
this point. Uh,
Hmm.
OMBC is still run by my then partner Sri, and he continues to run that business
Hmm.
the way it is.
Okay.
So um, I'm not going to talk too much about OMBC because I don't think it's
Okay.
so. But
Okay.
in terms of what we're doing with the bakery business and why OMBC came up is you're right. I mean, the idea was to try and create a brand that people could experience something even unique and different, even if they're
Hmm.
paying 60 rupees for something. It didn't
Yeah.
have to be
Yeah.
a large ticket item to, and and people are like, if you have to go after the masses, then the idli dosa seemed like the more obvious thing to do.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's where we decided to try and play a completely different card. When we opened, we didn't know if it will do well also, right? I mean, I
Hmm.
think the
Hmm.
first 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we were doing like 2,000 rupees a day sale. It was ridiculous. And
Right.
we'd have so much product that we were tossing at the end of the day because we didn't want to, make sure that, we had something that counter seemed empty when people walked in. So we had to
Hmm.
make sure that they were filled to a certain degree. But I don't know what happened. I think I have to credit Shonali to some degree that we got some visibility back then. She wrote an article about the kind of bread we were selling at OMBC. I think it was on the
Right.
Hindu. I think
Yeah.
almost a month after we opened.
Hmm.
And by then I think we got our game on and it was pretty
Hmm.
good.
Hmm.
And that changed to a large degree, people started recognizing that we were doing something that was not the cornerstone bakery. So
Right.
I guess that changed a lot of the way people were perceiving bread and people were
Hmm.
walking in through the doors. I think that was the toughest thing. We also picked a neighborhood. While everybody says, oh, Alwapet is the greatest market to be in Chennai,
Yeah.
but at the same time, we picked a part of TTK Road, which was just quite dead, actually. It was just like
Yeah.
traffic in, people wouldn't stop. But it was a great storefront, and we looked at it and said, can we turn this into a hoarding? Essentially, the entire storefront of the TDK Road Old Madras Baking Company was a hoarding.
Yeah.
And we said, if you can't miss it. If you drive by, you know you won't be able to miss it.
Yeah.
And so we said the idea is to try and get people in through the door because I was
Hmm.
very confident about the product and said if somebody walked in, they were
Uh,
definitely going to have a great experience that was fairly unique to India at that point. Um,
right.
and also, see, it's not like we took recipes from Europe and decided to try and put it here. That wasn't the case either, right? We
Hmm.
localized almost every single product except the croissant.
Hmm.
I guess. The croissant we wanted to name.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the bread was supposed to see if you look at traditional European bread, it's crusty, it's not as soft and
Hmm.
things like that. So we realized and recognized very early on that I spent 3 years before I opened Old Madras Baking Company. So we went through so many trials and iterations and product mixes and changes and the kind of equipment we were using. We went through. I mean, it was a painful process, but what we
Hmm.
realized is that we can't take products from Europe and apply it to uh,
The
the
Indian.
Indian audience and expect it to work. And that was something that I was very clear about. And then
Hmm.
that's when we decided to work on these really comfort-oriented products that people could recognize and associate with.
Hmm.
And that's what I think, is OMBC's success to a large degree. With French Loaf, we took a completely different approach, even though the product is in the same category. With French
Right.
loaf, the idea was to try and elevate. I mean, French loaf was, I think, price point wise was much lower than OMBC as well when
Yeah.
I took over. But right now, I think it's at the same, or if not a slightly higher price point. But the approach is different. The idea was to try and transport people walking in, still paying that same 60, 70 rupees to, let's say, a French patisserie or a bakery cafe in Paris, right? And saying, can you transport people and can you get them to feel that sense of, uh, wonder and amazement, regardless of the transaction size. And that was the key in trying to create a great experience. And that was the thesis behind French loaf. It's similar price points, but a whole different idea on the product itself. And the idea was to try and recreate the whole Parisian dream cafe in Madras, which is why, if you
Right.
notice that everything about it is different right now, even the product is
Yeah.
different, the kind of
Yeah.
concept is different. But still, we've managed to keep it extremely affordable. So I think that's I guess the sense, the differences, but yet the ethos is fairly similar in that sense.
Right.
So
But
and
when
French Coffee already have presence in Bangalore, Calcutta. So
yeah,
Chennai is
yeah.
completely revamped, and we were looking to start revamping Calcutta as of March, and everybody knows what happened.
Yeah.
Uh,
But has that been very challenging for you, or you find it
of course,
exciting
of course.
when you
Oh
take
well,
all these projects?
it's depressing, to be honest. I mean, I guess the new projects are challenging, and it's exciting to some degree. But really, what the last 7 months has done, not just to me, to almost every restaurateur that you speak to, has gone through,
Yeah.
is just unimaginably challenging. Across the board, across all of our businesses, we've laid off close to 800 people,
Oh
and
my
those are
God.
not easy calls, right? And we've shut almost our entire operation in Bangalore. We're down to like less than 50% of our outlets that we were operating.
Okay.
Pre-COVID, we were at close to 160 outlets. Now we're down to about 80, and that's rough. I mean, and I can tell you, like, some of restaurants that are personally, like, I know that do well, that did well pre-COVID, didn't survive the summer. Sea Salt was one, Hutong was the other. Uh, Hakkasan, which we just opened, we literally opened in
Yeah.
October, November.
Yeah.
That's shut. Al Kebab is shutting. So it's extremely disappointing to see something that you built that didn't even see the end of 1 year. But look, we can't make these decisions from our hearts, unfortunately, at this point.
Yeah.
And we have to make these decisions based on our current cash flow. And our cash flow right now dictates how many of these businesses we can keep open and how many we can't. And we'll obviously have to prioritize some of these more than others. Like,
Right.
Radio Room is shut currently, and it's been shut since March 1st.
Right.
And if I have to prioritize one business that I want to reopen right now, it's definitely Radio Room.
Yes,
That's
definitely. All of us are
I
waiting.
don't think Chennai will let me see the end of day if I don't reopen. So I guess it's decisions like that we have to obviously be mindful of. But look, almost all of the Wines Kitchens are shut. 53 outlets, out of which I think we have less than 10 operational right now. So, and that obviously affects a lot of. I mean, honestly, Latha, I went through like the roughest mental phase of my life. April, May, I think I think more April, May, June, and May and June being the worst of it. I couldn't sleep. I was dealing with, obviously employees being upset about the fact that, they were laid off in the midst of a pandemic. They didn't know.
Yeah.
But on the other side, I had to think about the other people that had their jobs that we needed to figure out a way to protect that. I mean, we can only hire people if we had a business at the end of summer.
Right.
And you don't make those decisions based on what you hear on the news. According to the news, oh, there's a vaccine coming, things are okay,
Yeah.
there's nothing, that whatever. You can't make decisions based on the news. You have to make them based on facts that you have on you at this point. And the only fact that we had to make these decisions were based on the cash flow that the business was making at that point.
Right.
And that was a grim number compared to what we were doing in January to what we were at 1/8 that number at the end of May or something, right?
Right.
So and you still have some employees that you will have to hold on to, because we don't know when these are going to reopen, and you can't obviously lay people off and say, well, look, we'll hire you whenever we can.
Right.
that's also being unfair to them. So we're trying to obviously furlough some people, pay some people, basic living wage. So there's a combination of these things that were really tough to make. If it wasn't for this, I think the pandemic, I mean, I was really having a ball. Things were going well.
Yeah.
You make some mistakes, well, you lose some money, but I guess that's not the reason why I got into F&B. I mean, I got into F&B hoping that we can create some great experiences for the people around us, and
Right.
I guess in some sense change the way Chennai eats to a large degree. I guess that's the reason why I got in, and yeah, so.
So, to where the business is today, than what is was compared to March, when do you see things really improving for the restaurant business? Not just for you, but for everyone in general.
So, I mean, I really wish I had a crystal ball at this point, because then I can at least start making some commitments to some of my key team members when I can hire them back. But look, I think it's going to be this way till at least the end of the year.
End of the year, yeah.
I mean, things are looking up a little bit, but it's not so great that it warrants changes in the way we're operating right now.
Right.
Like a restaurant like Nolita is almost back to being in its pre-COVID numbers without dining. Likewise to Sandy's. But if you look at Hutong, Wang's Kitchen, all of these numbers, they're abysmal, actually. I mean, I don't even know how we can ever recover from a swing like this. But likewise, Radio Room is at zero revenue. We are hoping that at some point this opens up, right? I mean, who knows when? I mean, it's not like the authorities have an idea for them to give us any clarity in this regard. I mean, I'm not going to point fingers. I think everybody's trying to do the best that they think they can do at this point. Hindsight's obviously 2020. We're all going to sit here and say maybe this could have been managed better, maybe this could have been done differently. But unfortunately, we have what we have on hand, and that unfortunately has very limited, I guess, vision into the future. Right? So I keep telling my team, saying, look, we need to figure out what we can do for tomorrow and the next week. I don't want you to think of what can happen 2 months from now and make plans based on that, because every time we tried doing that over the last 4 or 5 months, it turned around and something completely different happened. These additional lockdowns, right? The hospitality industry thrives on 3 days in a week: Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Right.
And we don't have one of those days. The biggest day of the business week for the hospitality industry has ceased to exist in I don't know how many months now.
Yeah.
So how do you plan for that contingency? How do you plan for things like that? So anyway, I'm hoping that by year end things will start looking a little better than what they are right now. And if they do, then we'll start seeing a revival of some of our brands, or maybe starting a couple of new ones. We're actually in the process of actually launching a couple of new brands even through the pandemic, and not as online stores, but actually physical locations. So,
oh really?
We're looking at an offshoot of Sandy's to launch very soon.
Okay.
So, a friend of mine, Divya, who's an amazing coffee roaster, she's I've collaborated with her, and she's launching a roastery cafe soon.
Oh, lovely.
So that might open, within the next month or so. So, so we're talking about things that we're not waiting. I mean, who knows? Like you said, I mean, nobody knows when this is going to happen. So we'll have to obviously plan for the now, and based on that, we are making some decisions right now. So
okay. So what is 2021 looking like for you?
I'm hoping a holiday is somewhere in that mix.
Dude, you're always on holiday. I always see you either in New York or somewhere.
Yeah, I'm working most of the time. I'm not on holiday. Just because I post pictures of my food and my surroundings doesn't mean I'm on holiday. Last year was a really manic travel calendar. So 2019 was great, and I think 2020 is the pit. So I'm hoping 2021 has at least some travel on the calendar. But 2021 is definitely going to see a lot of new brands that we're going to launch.
Super.
Everything has been in the pipeline, so I'm hoping that we're also able to revive a couple of the businesses that we've shut in 2020. Kutang for one. I definitely want to reopen that.
Yeah.
Sea salt is the other. I'm hoping that
Yeah.
we're able to revive sea salt in some way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful for 2021, as we all can be, I guess, at this point.
Okay, super. Okay, and the last question to you is, of course, I know Maya was your favorite, but currently, what is your pet? Which is the project of yours which is closest to you right now, which you want to see successful, and
French loaf. I think because that's the newest big baby
uh,
that I have.
big baby, yeah,
Yeah, because it's like I mean, I guess in some sense French loaf is adopted. I didn't
yeah,
create it. The first time that I'm
yeah.
taking on something that somebody else has started, and I'm
Hmm.
putting my own spin on it. Obviously,
Hmm.
trying to preserve some of uh, the nostalgia around the brand, but yet infuse my own ideas into it.
Hmm.
Um, I would love to see French loaf, grow to a brand that's in 10 cities in the next 3 years. Well, that's what we're working towards.
Super.
The rest of it is in the customer's hands, I guess, and seeing how many people like what we're doing.
Okay, super great. Thanks so much, Sandesh, for chatting with me. It was wonderful, and really looking forward to Radio Room opening again whenever
Yeah,
that
I know. Don't
is.
worry. I'll make you your cocktails this time when you come.
Super. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much,
Thank
Latha.
you
It
so
was
much.
fun chatting. See you. See you. Bye.
Take care. Take care. Bye. Bye.